Well, welcome everybody to the relaunch party of Wildcrafted Wines. Very excited that you guys could be here tonight. And so I'm going to start by introducing our key players, the people who are going to be bringing you through an amazing experience. So we're going to start with Eric Gallegos. Eric is a third-generation vineyard manager in Napa Valley. Eric's immigrant grandfather worked under Roy Raymond, the winemaker at Behringer Brothers Winery in the 1950s. Eric's dad grew up working alongside his father in the winery and vineyard, and after graduating from St. Helena High School, Eric's dad took a full-time job with Ed Beard of Beard Ranches, where he was part of a team that managed high-end vineyards. One of the wines from those vineyards was America's first ever 100-point wine awarded by Robert Parker to an American winery. It was the 1985 Growth Winery Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon. He became the vineyard foreman of J.J. Cohn Ranch, an estate now owned by one of the greatest film directors of our time, Francis Ford Coppola. You may have heard of him. After graduating from Fresno State with a degree in viticulture, Eric went to work at Trinchero Family Estates, also at his father's company, Gallegos Vineyard Management, Nathan Beatty's Vinifera Advisors, and is currently the vineyard manager of a local high-end winery in Napa. Eric remains the consulting viticulturist and winemaker to the family business. So we are very excited that Eric is here tonight. We also have Martin Bernal-Hafner. Martin's wine journey began in the Rhone Valley at the iconic M. Charpentier, the producer of legendary Hermitage wines. I don't speak French. I'm terrible. I'm going to tell you that right now. While there, Martin immersed himself in the art of terroir-driven winemaking. The daily ritual of manual labor in the cellar, team lunches, and the closing of long days with traditional French meals, yum, perfectly paired with classic wines, convinced Martin that this is his craft and lifelong journey. He then joined the team at Viña Cobos, where he began his 7-year tutelage under world-renowned winemaker Paul Hobbs. Martin is now at the helm of Topel's winemaking, crafting elegantly complex and well-balanced wines. He takes a minimalist approach in the cellar and focuses on the vineyard. Martin's goal is to capture the essence of the terroir and to craft truly distinctive, complex, and textured wines. So I'm excited to taste one of those wines tonight. Okay, and we've got rock star pastry chef Robert Buttercup Nieto. Began his career as a line cook at the Corpus Christi Country Club after receiving his cooking and baking certificate from Del Mar Community College. He then headed west to Las Vegas to work in 5-star hotels such as Bellagio, Paris, Las Vegas, and the Venetian as a pastry sous chef. Robert finally got his big break by landing a job as pastry sous chef at world-renowned chef Thomas Keller's Bouchon Bistro in Napa Valley. Robert then moved to Sonoma County to work at Michelin-starred restaurants Madrona Manor as the pastry chef in 2010 and as the pastry chef at Jackson Family Wines in 2012. He has won numerous international pastry competitions, and in 2016, Dessert Professional magazine selected Robert as one of the top 10 pastry chefs in America. That is impressive. Robert was later selected as a member of Team USA for the, okay, this is where I'm gonna blow it here. Can you say it? Mondial des Arts Sucrés?
Yeah, Mondial des Arts Sucrés.
Okay, I butchered it. Okay. This is the international competition in February 2018 in Paris, France. Robert and his team member came in 5th in the world in this intense and highly competitive competition. Right. Yeah. In December 2019, he competed on and won the Food Network series Holiday Wars. He has also competed in Food Network shows such as Candyland, Beat Bobby Flay, and Cookie Wars. In early 2019, Robert realized his dream and launched his own chocolate company, Fleur Sauvage Chocolates, and that means wildflower in French. Those are the beautiful pieces of artwork that you have received your chocolate today. So we're so excited to have all 3 of you here as our special guests, our experts. I'm so impressed. I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm like among some royalty here. Some pretty incredible people. So Laura and Terry, I'm gonna let you guys do a little intro here of yourself and talk about the Wildcrafted wines.
So yeah, I was just going to do a quick description of why we're changing the name from of our company from Travel Food Curated Wines to Wildcrafted Wines. And the main reason is we wanted to come up with a name that was more descriptive of what it is that we do. We found whenever we were meeting people for tastings, et cetera, they always ask, well, what is it that you do based on our name? So we feel Wildcrafted is much more descriptive, allows people to know immediately that we're in the wine business, that we sell wine, we have a wine club, et cetera. But more importantly, it's descriptive of the types of vintners that we work with and the wines that they make. Eric and Martin are two great examples. And even Robert in his craft is a great example. We work with vintners who have all worked with or for major producers of wine in a variety of capacities. But when we start working with them, they are starting to do their own thing. They've gotten away from whatever formula they were working with and maybe a large corporate environment or
a brand, a certain brand that has to be fulfilled.
And start to do their own thing. And as artists, they get to really start to show us and the world what they can do. And so we're really happy to have Eric here tonight. He was the very first vintner that we started to work with. Martin is our most recent after several years. So it's kind of great that we have both of them here today. And there have been many in between. Some have been this type of artisan for 20 years, and we have some of their wines, and others are just getting started. So we're really happy about that and happy to have Eric and Martin with us. And Robert, as I mentioned, is really also in his craft, you know, the same type of thing. You heard the types of places that he's worked. You know, especially for some of us from the Napa Valley, when we hear things like working for Thomas Keller and Bouchon, those for us are just some of the ultimate places that he could have been in, and especially the awards he's gotten in television appearances. And now he's doing, you know, he's off on his own, doing his own thing. So it all fits together. And so we feel the word Wildcrafted really starts to give a good description of who we are and what we do. So
it's also about the artistry is, we have found that we're gravitating only towards the little guy, the little guy or gal winemaker, the independent winemaker. They make 50 cases of wine, 100 cases of wine, a very small amount. And it's really hard to get these wines out in front of people because the big brands, the big boys, take all the shelf space. So we're extremely grateful to represent each and every one of our winemakers, and want to thank you all for participating in this as well. We're very grateful for your support of these guys, especially in light of the fires and everything that has been going on. Probably a flood will be coming this year as well.
No.
Earthquake.
No.
So thank you. Oh, and one other thing, Wildcrafted is actually a term you'll probably start to see more and more of it, you know, wildcrafted honey, wildcrafted this, wildcrafted that. And it really is a way to make wine as well, as natural as can be. So I think the winemakers can talk a little bit more about that and why we really support that. And one more thing before Eric kicks it off. He actually has much more under his belt than everything that we heard. And we've known him since he was a little kid, literally. And I want to say, it didn't come up in the introduction, that Eric is also responsible with his dad for getting a Robert Parker rating of 93 points on a beautiful wine of theirs that we're not showing tonight, the Dos Hermanos. So don't let him fool you. He's much more than a vineyard manager.
Awesome.
Take it away.
Okay, great. Eric is going to walk us through a little tasting of the Chardonnay.
Sure. Cool. Well, first of all, thanks, Laura and Terry, for having me on here and sharing our story and our wines. I really appreciate the support. And Sue, also, thanks for setting this up, and looking forward to tasting the wines with you guys.
Has everybody poured their glass now?
So we're, and I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the winemaking style and answer any questions if you guys have any questions, but we can sip wine as I talk. so it's not too boring just hearing me talk. We can enjoy the wine. And as Sue was saying that, my family immigrated here first as farm workers. So in the 1950s, through phylloxera in the 80s and now in the 2000s, we've mainly focused on being vineyard managers and farming the grapes. And it wasn't until 2008 when we had the opportunity to start our own wine company in hopes of becoming better vineyard managers. So we all heard the term is that wines are made in the vineyard. So we're focusing on the vineyard and wanted to know, kind of what it took to make wine, or the practices that we did in the vineyard, how they affected the wine and the end quality of the wine. So we had the opportunity to start our own wine company at that time, working with this Chardonnay vineyard. So as Sue mentioned in our intro, was my father had worked for the Beard family, which is a well-established family here in St. Helena that own a few vineyards and run their own company as well. And my dad actually planted this vineyard back in the late 70s, working as a teenager. And then in 2008, like I was saying, he had the opportunity to buy some grapes from that vineyard to produce this wine. So it's about it's really old, and my uncle still manages the vineyard himself. So for the family, so our philosophy of winemaking is working with small vineyards that are farmed by the family. So we're seeing the whole process from farming the grapes, from pruning the vines up through harvest, and when the fruit's in the winery, it's all 100% wildcrafted by the family. So in this particular vineyard, it's an old vine Chardonnay, sustainably farmed and dry farmed. So what that means is it doesn't see any irrigation throughout the year, and what that does is really the vines are 40 years old, so the roots are really established. There's really no need to irrigate, but it's on a California sprawl, old style trellis system where the fruit is kind of hanging below the leaves, sees that dappled sunlight that we're looking for, and really creates this concentration of fruit in the wine. And one thing I've learned about making wine is that, in the vineyard and farming, we stick to a certain protocol, a certain practice. Of course, the weather is, we're always trying to, fight weather events. This year was not only COVID and the fire, but we saw some heat. We saw, 10 days of 100-degree weather in July. That it's very rare for this area. I mean, we'll see a weekend like Labor Day weekend. Usually, it's a couple of days of heat. But 2008, as far as which this is a Chardonnay of 2018, it was almost like a perfect growing season. So we didn't see any major heat spikes. We didn't see any late rain. So it was very, very positive and no challenges. So again, that allowed us to kind of stick to our protocol, stick to our farming. And then we learned from farming in the winery, you can really steer the wine in whichever way you want to go. So on our Chardonnay, we didn't want to be a round bar, kind of over oaky and buttery. So we stayed away from that style, and what we're really going for is more of a wine that's more layered. And as we taste through the chocolates and pair it with the wine, that's exactly what it is. And Robert does a great job with his chocolates of doing the same. So as far as this Chardonnay, we age the wine in a little bit of neutral oak, a little bit of stainless steel, and a little bit of new French oak. So again, trying to have that different layers of aging in the wine. And then also had a little bit of malolactic fermentation, which kind of has that creaminess, that softness to the palate. And I don't know if Robert wants to move into some of the chocolate tasting notes and kind of talk about how this wine pairs with the chocolates. If anyone has any questions to this point too, I'll feel free to answer any questions.
Oh yeah, definitely. Ask questions.
Yeah, please do so. And, I just want to say thank you again for Laura and Terry for reaching out and me being part of this. I think this is pretty cool. I love doing a lot of cool pairings, with chocolate and wines and how they all pair together. So it's really exciting. And thank you, Sue, again, for reaching out as well too. Again, I also go by Chef Buttercup, just to let you know. A lot of people, but at work, this has been going on. This is what happens when you're a pastry chef. I've been working for Kendall Jackson for 12 years, and so my executive chef gave me this name because, you know, when you're a pastry chef, they give you these kind of sweet names, and Chef Buttercup, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go with it. And so it was just, you know, you can kind of remember Robert a little bit, but when you say Chef Buttercup, you can never forget. So I thought it was kind of cool. It was kind of nichey. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna roll with it. And so it's been going on for a long time. And so, yeah, it's really cool. And, you know, as Sue said, you know, we have Fleur Sauvage chocolate that we started about 1.5 years ago now. As you can see, it's on my shirt. So really cool. And I can't thank my wife who's been a part of this. So it's been a long, fun journey. You know, we get to create really cool, eclectic chocolates, very seasonal driven, and we always try to pair it with something or just have it as just an everyday sweet. So I always say, have a sweet life. That's what I always say. So it's what I love to do, as you can see. And talk about
Buttercup, could I interrupt for 1 second? I'm so sorry.
Absolutely.
Everybody should have had a tasting note also in your packet to follow along. Eric, maybe after we could go back and talk a little bit about what we're tasting in the glass just without the chocolate, because there's beautiful flavors in here, layers upon layers of things to taste.
Cool.
Sorry, apologies.
Oh, no worries. It's all great. I know we talked about a little bit about the Food Network, but if you haven't seen Holiday Wars, you can actually watch it on Hulu. I know it's still on there. And then the one that's is Candyland is actually going to be November 15th. So you set your tapes, or if you want to just put on the calendar, November 15th, Candyland, just like the game. You remember all the different themes on there. It's kind of like based on that. I can't reveal too much, but if you remember the game, you're going to see kind of some of that stuff, but with a twist on it. So very fun. As you can see, I'm a very competitor. I did Lake Tahoe Ironman race. So I did a full Ironman race. I love competing, as you can see. So it's a lot of fun. But whenever we want to start, we can start now on this chocolate and wine pairing. Eric, I know we were talking about the Chardonnay, beautiful wine. You know, I always recommend, if maybe Eric wants to go in this as well too, but I like to swirl it just to kind of give it some breather in there. It kind of opens it up a little bit. This is kind of how I do it when I do my pairings, when I taste chocolates or pastries. I always kind of give it a smell first. Kind of see what you're getting. You know, some floral notes, maybe some citrus notes in there.
Juicy.
Oh, go ahead.
Juicy.
Juicy as well. Maybe a little bit of oak in there. Maybe a hint of vanilla. And I always take a small sip. Kind of move it around a little bit in your mouth and just kind of let it set. And then on your chocolate, we don't want to take a whole bite. We want to do just a little small piece. So you can kind of experiment as well too. So we're just going to cut it in half.
Which chocolate?
We're doing the Meyer lemon. So it's the yellow chocolate.
Wow.
I'll be right back.
No, here, we'll just bite it.
As you can see right there.
Sure.
All right. So I'm going to take a bite.
Little bite. He's just doing take a little bite.
Oh, that's lush.
Mm. Oh,
So you're going to get like a little bit of, you can get a lot of citrus notes, the lemon, a little bit of vanilla, kind of that silky, kind of creamy. Kind of move that in your mouth a little bit, and then taste the wine again.
Interesting.
Wow. Takes on a different flavor profile.
Now, when we taste this, right, like, you know, it's not so, they're like parallel. They're not like offsetting each other. That's where I like to see it is you want to make sure that you find this balance where it complements the wine. This is kind of how I do it. And so, you know, if it's something that doesn't taste right, then it's off balance. So it just kind of, instead of going up, it's going to go down, right? So this is why I always make sure that's going to work. And it definitely works because it has like lemon, it has like that vanilla, that kind of creamy notes, just almost like a Chardonnay where it kind of has a little bit of that butteriness to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, when I was tasting these with Robert a couple of days ago, they kind of, like Robert was saying, they complement each other. So on the nose of the wine, you know, you get the classic Chardonnay aromas of like crisp apple, some vanilla. And then on the winemaking side, you know, aging it in stainless steel, that's really preserves those kind of those crisper aromas of Chardonnay. So again, that was, you know, by the design and the winemaking. And then when Robert describes when you're biting into the chocolate and it kind of fills your palate with creaminess and softness, that's kind of what I get off the mid palate of this wine is, and that is coming from the malolactic fermentation and also maybe from some of the new oak. So again, creating that palate that's a little softer. And then as the wine kind of on the back palate, it still stays a little crisp. So it's still nice and bright. And I think that the wine and vice versa, the chocolate really complements this wine in a smooth, you know, nice and silky way.
Yeah, Robert, you're so good at doing the pairings and things, which I love. When you have these perfect pairings that are like, the wine tastes great by itself, the chocolate tastes great by itself, but you put them together and it's like, wow, they both just got way better. So
it's almost like another dimension, you're right.
Yeah.
Like you have like that one dimensional, but then once you taste it with something else, it kind of brings it back to full circle and getting this like all these different flavors, but it just works well. Yeah.
It doesn't knock anything out of place.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really excited that you guys chose to do a white wine with this pairing, because everybody kind of assumes and they go, oh, chocolate and it's going to be all red. I think this is brilliant. So nice job.
That was gorgeous chocolate too.
Yes. And yeah, I think with this next one, I think you're going to be like really surprised because this is our Mexican chocolate. We did this tasting, me and Eric, and it was just like so beautiful. And it was just, you never think with dark chocolate and spices and, you know, that would pair with the Chardonnay. So it was just amazing how the two really like work together. So again, you know, definitely take a sip of your wine.
I'm so excited that I'm having chocolate and wine for dinner right now.
This is it.
So the Mexican chocolate, just to let you know, if you can see, you might already have the notes, but it's the little square one. So
Cutting these in half to save to taste with the syrup.
You know, I like to do that. You can either cut it in half or quarter if you want to save it and, you know, do a little experiment a little bit later. So I just cut just a little piece for us right now. But in this Mexican chocolate, it's a 65% chocolate. It's a Ecuador chocolate. So just kind of like wine, how they grow in different appellations. This was, you know, obviously a lot of fog coming in, a lot of moisture. And it's just like it's a beautiful chocolate. It's just so fruity, fruit forward. We add a little bit of chili to it, a little bit of cayenne, some vanilla, and a little bit of cinnamon to it. So we'll try a little bit of that chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It still has that creaminess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you get like a little bit of those spices, like kind of hit your back of the throat,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like overly like spicy. And now we try it with a
Tropical.
little bit of the wine.
Tropical came out for me. That's funny.
And one thing tasting is what the you know, the lemon chocolate was kind of complementing the wine, and this, I think the Mexican chocolate with the wine really elevates the experience. It's not so much of a, it's just like you bite the chocolate have the wine, and it just kind of keeps your palate just keeps enjoying the flavors and all the aromas and all the good stuff. It's a really nice experience, different than the lemon one, I thought.
I like the little cayenne, just barely, like that little kick, like you said, Robert, just in the back. You're like, ooh, man, that is nice.
Yeah, it's, that's for me is finding that balance in chocolate and not putting too much. Really want to taste the chocolate as well, but you also want to taste those other flavors. And what's great about this is, like, what Eric just said, like the lemon, it had its own notes with this wine, and where this Mexican chocolate, it's a different story. Like, it's dark chocolate, but with white wine, and it just, how they complement each other. And, then what's really great is, it's very creamy and kind of buttery as well too. But then you get those beautiful notes with the spice on it.
That was delicious.
That was fun. See that? I wasn't expecting the dark chocolate with the Chardonnay. It works
Got a
out
long
great.
finish. It extends the finish of your wine, Eric.
Yeah, that's what we noticed as well. Robert, I had a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you say 65% chocolate, does that mean that 65% is chocolate and the rest is the other components to fill the 100% is the other ingredients?
Yeah, so you're gonna find like the sugars, the lecithins. So that's how much like cacao is going into the chocolate. Where if it was 100%, that's 100% cacao. There's not gonna be like any sugars in there, so it's gonna be really bitter. Yeah. So this is a little more softer, but we go up to about a 70%. So you're gonna taste like deeper fruits, kind of like blackberries, very jammy, and those kind of we pair with more like a Zinfandel or something like that.
And does it start as 100% and you can cut it down to whatever you want?
Yeah, so dark chocolate usually goes down to maybe about 50, 52 dark chocolates, so a little bit softer. This is a little bit more medium, I would say, and then you get a little bit bolder, almost just like wine as well too, so you can get some softer notes, a little different characteristics in the chocolates.
Sweet.
So, Robert, besides chocolate, I know I'm going off script here, but
That's okay.
What else would you pair, that's a sweet with a Chardonnay? Because like we always talk about, oh, you have to pair sweets with sweet wine or heavier, dark, red wines.
For me, I think maybe a crepe would be really nice. Because you get those beautiful kind of that butteriness from the crepe itself, where you can put maybe some citrus, like a jam, like a marmalade inside, maybe a little bit of whipped cream, just because it's a little bit creamy. Those are always fun to play with. I don't know what the residual sugars on Chardonnay, but I think for like this one, I think it'd be perfect with a crepe.
Beautiful choice.
Does anyone, any of our guests, you guys have any questions? Feel free to unmute and ask away.
Yeah, Robert, I have a question.
Okay.
In this instance, this is John Bomsey. In this instance, you found chocolate to match the flavor of the wine. Do you ever drink a sip of wine, and are you inspired then to make a certain kind of chocolate?
Yeah, actually, sometimes I taste, like, for instance, a Pinot, and you get that beautiful kind of smokiness, a little bit of cherry notes off of it, where I'll make a cherry jam with dark chocolate and try the two together. And it's just like amazing, the two together. So yeah, you definitely get a lot of cool flavors, great notes from a Pinot. If you're into Pinots, that's what I do. Yeah.
So send him your recipe, John.
Awesome.
I have a question for Eric. I'm a big Sauvignon Blanc, New Zealand lover wine, and I tend to shy away from Chardonnay because it tends to be too oaked.
Yeah.
But I was very impressed this was not oaky.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit like how, this isn't, I don't know if you'd say this is unoaked, but it wasn't a high level of oakiness. And I know you already talked about it, but kind of talk a little bit more about that? Because California tends to get very oaky.
Yeah.
So stay away. Yeah.
I think it's definitely the oak aging that this wine saw. So again, it was only about 20% new oak, and the rest being a balance of neutral French oak, which neutral is considered any barrel that's 3 years or older. So we didn't use any 2-year-old old oak. We only used a small percentage of new oak. And then I think too, maybe some of the magic there is the stainless steel. So it goes directly from the press into these different aging vessels, and it's right off the press, and it's right into stainless steel. So it really preserves those kind of more bright aromatics. And then it doesn't really go into this, the malolactic too. So it doesn't go into 100% malolactic fermentation. It's only a small percentage, about 20%, just to add a little bit of softness and richness to the palate. But again, kind of leaning more towards on the, Sauvignon Blanc kind of brightness of profile of Chardonnay. We wanted to, our winemaking philosophy is also producing wines that are expressive of the vineyard and the site. This vineyard being in Yountville, it's actually like a cooler part of the valley. It's in Yountville, the proximity to the San Pablo Bay brings in the fog in the morning. It's nice and cool in the morning. Where in the hills you're above the fog line. They do have the mountain tannins in the hills, but it's also an expression of the site, I would say, that produces this type of Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm.
And again, along with the different aging vessels that we use. The day we pick it too has a lot to do with it. So that was also by design. We didn't really let the fruit hang on the vine enough to drop off the acidity. So we were shooting for a certain acid level in the wine where it's going to bring out these kind of brighter, crisper aromas and flavors. So that was also part of the style that we were going for.
Well, nice job. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love it when it's so funny that you said that, Chris, because I'm like, okay, I think a lot of people think that California Chardonnay is these big oak bombs. And I love it when yeah, a lot of it is, but I love it when I find people that say, oh, I don't like Chardonnay. I don't do the Chardonnay. And then you find a wine like this and they go, you know what? I'm going to rethink the Chardonnay. And it's like, yes.
You don't know how many times we've heard that, not right now because of COVID, but going to some wine tasting events and all that. I hear that, at least 5 times every event. Someone that's coming over and is like, no, I don't want any Chardonnay. And then they taste ours and it's just like, okay, this is a little different and a little fun. So
nice.
It makes me feel good when I hear that because that's exactly what we were going for. So thanks for.
Yes, it's a beautiful balance, Eric. A beautiful balance.
Well done. Well done. Good. All right. So any other questions?
One other question. This is Ken.
Yes.
So again, I'm not a wine expert. I'm more the engineer. So Terry knows me. We work together. So I like to know how things work tight. And so with the aging process, so obviously you've got several different aging vessels that you're going to use. Do you follow that same formula, right? We're going to age the wine for so long, but it's a matter of distributing that across the different vessels, or do you do something special to make your wine stand out? Because we absolutely love this, and like you said, this is very different than a lot of the Chardonnays that we typically drink. And so hats off, you did a great job.
Thank you. So was there a question in there? I was kind of breaking up, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, so the question is around the aging process where you use several different vessels. Do you typically age that Chardonnay for the same amount of time as another typical Chardonnay, or are you doing something special to come up with that unique taste that you've got?
Yeah, we we'll in any given year we'll use the 3 different types. So as I was saying, new French oak, neutral oak, which is 3-year-old oak or older, and stainless steel. We might not bottle all the vessels for that vintage. Kind of to your point, Ken, we'll taste through the barrels and we'll taste all the vessels, and maybe one year we'll have a little more stainless steel or a little less new oak, and it's based on just tasting the vessels throughout the year, throughout the aging process, and when we feel like it's kind of where we want it, and where we want it for that year and what the year brought us, we'll pull the trigger and say, you know what, I think it's ready to be bottled. And typically this wine is only aged for 7 months, but in any given year it could be aged up to 12. I think that traditional wine, red wine, and some Chardonnays are aged up to 20 months, and that gives you a whole different mouthfeel, a whole different aroma. More of an aged, less of a bright aromas and flavors. So it's definitely, I wouldn't say it's the same composition of vessels, but we do use 3 different kinds every year. I haven't played around with concrete yet, but I know that for some Sauvignon Blancs, especially in New Zealand, they'll age them in concrete eggs or concrete tanks. And that adds kind of like a little like mineral kind of flavors to the wine, another layer of flavors. And so maybe one day we'll play around with some eggs and maybe throw a few gallons in an egg and kind of have an additional layer to the wine. But
then put it underwater and let it age.
Yeah, exactly. So it is the same vessel every year, but the percentage could change based on the year.
So definitely more art than science. That's awesome. Thanks.
So I'm impressed. This is one of the cool things once again about Wildcrafted wines is this wine in particular, 200 cases. That's it. That's amazing. And that's how you can control doing all the little details that you do because it's only 200 cases. This is not these big, huge batches that they blend everything out of everything. So, I mean, that's amazing. I love that. And this is a really delicious wine.
And it's sustainable. And they
Yes,
they don't use a lot of water. So
That's
it's
right.
great for the environment.
Absolutely.
Yes. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Did Lynn send something in through the messaging, Sue?
She said Missouri winery they were talking about earlier, Schultz House Vineyard in Augusta, Missouri.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
And Montel Winery as well.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Down the street.
So you know
And
what?
Last thing before, sorry, Sue.
I was just going to say our world is just so small.
No, I assume that we're done and ready to move on, but I just wanted to say one more thing about this vineyard. It is basically behind our house where we live in Yountville. And so we've grown up not only with Eric, but the vineyard, and we get to walk this vineyard. And I'm sorry, Eric, but every now and then I pull a grape
Yeah.
and taste it.
Yes.
So there it is.
Eric's going to send the police now. You shouldn't have told him that.
I took it.
That's authentic wine country living right there.
And that's the biggest crime we can commit there too. That's
After your dad taught me how to taste the grape for the sugar, I was like, oh, well, I have to go taste. Is it ready? Oh.
Is that you that has a hole in the gate or in the?
Laura, did you grow up in Napa, and Terry came sort of later, or sort of was he also there early?
Was that to Eric, Robbie?
No, to you, Laura. Did you grow up in Napa?
No, Terry and I have lived in Napa Valley for 30 years now.
And they, by the way, just celebrated 29 years. Their anniversary was just a couple days ago. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
But Robbie, Eric grew up across, we live on a very tiny street, but he grew up directly across. We could reach our hand out and almost shake hands with him as he was growing up.
Going off to school.
Yeah. I think I was 12 years old, maybe, when I moved to Yountville, and I grew up on a vineyard at the, that J&J Cone Ranch, where my dad was a vineyard manager, and when he bought the house in Yountville, I started crying. I was like, I don't want to move to Yountville. This is horrible.
Right.
I'm gonna have to make new friends and all that. But living at Fresno for college really kind of made me appreciate Napa and Yountville a lot more. So I was lucky enough to move back with my parents after college, and I was probably at Bashan at the bar when Robert was making pastries back there.
We all were.
As a 19-year-old at the bar. That was fun.
Ooh.
I'm kidding.
Thank you, Eric.
Well, yeah, I
It was
remember,
a fabulous presentation and fabulous wine. Thank you.
Yes.
you.
Awesome. Okay, are we ready to move on to some red? We've arrived at that time of the evening. Ready to move on to some red. We've got Martin in the house. Well, he's actually in the wine cellar.
Yep,
And,
hiding in the basement.
I'm gonna let you take it away, Martin. Let's do this tasting.
All right, so today we're going to be tasting the 2016 Topel Syrah or Syrah Noir. Just going to go back a little bit into my history. So Sue Red, my first harvest. Well, let's step back a little bit. My original career was in finance. I was in New York and didn't really quite see myself staying in for very long. And my wife was interested in wine, so we decided to leave everything behind and we went to France. So this is when we came to the Rhone Valley, the historical home of Syrah. So from my first harvest, I was kind of fell in love with Syrah, the Rhone Valley, the hills, the food, everything about it was just kind of, I still love it. I mean, I wish I could go back every year. But so that began my wine journey, and then I went to Argentina where I worked with Paul Hobbs, came back to California, and have been working here in Sonoma County, making also some 100-point wines with Paul, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Cabernet. So it's been a really exciting career. But about 2 years ago, I found this opportunity with Topel, and what really convinced me to kind of take this leap, going from a really well-known winery to basically, a smaller family-run winery, was really I saw the potential in the site, but also I kind of wanted to move on from a little bit, not that Paul Hobbs is corporate, but bigger, medium-sized winery into really crafting the wine from the vineyard to bottling and selling it. So I'm basically doing every step along the way. I have a very small team. So I have a vineyard manager and I have a vineyard hand, and the three of us pretty much do everything. So I spend 80% of the year in the vineyard with the guys, telling them exactly how we want to take care of the vines. And then the other 20%, all three of us are in the cellar, and that's during harvest, which is about to end. We're close to pressing out everything probably by next week.
Aaron, how many acres are you guys farming?
So we're farming about 15 acres up at the estate. And then we also work with other heritage vineyards kind of in Sonoma County. We're actually located in southern Mendocino County. But now you speak about the vineyard. When you think about wild, I think if you ever get to visit our estate, and I'm gonna share my screen because I have some pictures. Sue, can you enable sharing?
Let's see.
It's really a wild site, to be honest. So can everyone see my screen now?
You should be able to now. Hold on.
Okay.
Well, while he's doing that, I was going to say one of the things that kind of attracted me to working with Martin was when he mentioned working in the Northern Rhone with the Hermitage wines. Those for me are some of my favorite wines in the world. And they are some incredible wines that come from that region of France. And when he told me that's what his experience was, and then when I started tasting his wines, I thought this was such a great find for our business. So I was just really happy to have met Martin and start tasting his wine. So we're pretty excited about it. Like I said, he's our newest vintner, but we've already started to have some real interest in his wines.
Sorry, I'm having a little technical.
There we go. It's working.
Okay.
There you go.
Can see it now?
Got it.
So yeah, this is our vineyard here. We're located in, like I mentioned, southern Mendocino County at about 1,400 feet of elevation. So we're about 1,000 feet above the valley floor. Really rugged terrain, really tough farming. And the whole vineyard was pretty much planted 4x5.
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah, we can't see Martin.
Oh, you can't see anything?
You can
Or you
see your
can see just-
desktop
All
in the
the photographs at the top, but nothing.
Click on an image so we could see it blown up.
Oh, it's weird. In my screen, it shows it blown up. So
Just
Maybe-
click on one, maybe it'll open for us.
Yeah, let me see.
Screen or two different
You
screens?
have multiple screens because maybe you're sharing.
No, that's bizarre. Let's see if I edit it.
You might need to share your desktop. I know Zoom has been a little funky lately.
Ken's the expert. Ken, we need your help.
So
This
you
is
were
my
sharing
first
your
time
Windows
actually
Explorer.
sharing, so
Well, you were sharing your Windows Explorer.
There we go.
There we go.
All right,
okay, so we
Beautiful.
have one at least.
beautiful.
Here you can't really see, but anyway, so we're up in the mountain right below Duncan Peak. Everything in this property has to be farmed by hand, so we don't even own a tractor. Our rows are so close together that we can't use any equipment, so my guys have to go in, prune, take all the pruning cuttings out. We can't, for all the spraying, it has to be with backpacks, with dusters. We farm it pretty much organically. We're not certified, but we don't use any herbicides, and we mostly just use fish emulsion as our fertilizers. So we really want to basically preserve the land for the future generations, but also, farm it the way we want to farm it for, to share our beliefs. So the whole wild and crafted, we do believe in that. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share because it's distracting me.
Beautiful.
So yes, going back to part of the reasons why I joined Topel, I found Syrah, mountain grown Syrah, and I was going to show you a picture of the Rhone Valley and how much it really resembles our site, and I think really speaks to how well Syrah does in mountain sites. We have really minimal yield, so we get about 2 tons per acre at most on our property. Get really vivid flavors and aromas from that, so good concentration. This Syrah, it's really exciting to make because basically we take it in, we harvest it. It's usually one of the first ones to come in, but we get to do a lot of whole cluster fermentation. So we add in the whole bunches, and then we add some destemmed fruit as well. And what happens is the whole clusters go through a carbonic maceration. So you're going to see a lot of kind of fruit notes kind of up front. So a lot of bright cherry, maybe a little bit more bramble and currants. But you also get more delicate notes of violets and maybe sometimes a little bit of bacon fat. So that's another cool thing about Syrah is you get a little bit of sauvage or wild characters from the wines. And I hope you can smell that because to me, I try to make like a cote roti. That's one of my favorite appellations in the Rhone, and that's kind of what I try to simulate.
Hey, Martin, can you talk a little bit about tannins and?
Absolutely. So tannins, tannins are a very complex topic, but tannins are extracted mainly from the skins. So that's why we do maceration. Unlike white wines where you press out right away as it comes into the cellar, we ferment and we ferment with the skins, and sometimes we do something called extended maceration where after primary fermentation, the skins stay with the wine to extract more tannins and phenols and color. So all those things from this grape skins. Because if we were to press out Syrah right away when it came into the winery, you pretty much make a Blanc de Noir, so a cleared color wine.
Of red wines, is this considered one that has a lot of tannins? I've been told I'm more of a white wine drinker, like the Pinot Noirs are less tannins. Is this considered more tannins?
So I would say Syrah tends to be in the middle. So Pinot Noir would tend to have less tannin. Syrah definitely has a little bit of grip and tannin, especially because we do whole cluster fermentation. So the rachis, what basically the stems that are attached to the berry, those have tannins as well. And those do get released into the wine during that whole cluster fermentation. And then you have wines that are way more tannic, like Cabernet. So we also make a lot of Cabernet. In those, we don't want any stems in the fermentation because it already has enough tannin, enough grip. So we don't want any additional tannin.
Okay, thank you.
So I got just a little, I don't, it's weird because it was there and then it was gone, but it was rose petals.
Yep.
I was getting some like real like rose, and I don't know where it was there and then it's gone. It's like it got a lot of layers to this because then it turned into something else. I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
Absolutely. So that's a fascinating thing about Syrah. It's got a lot of layers because you do get that upfront fruit, but then it has all these layers where it goes into florals, but wild, they're a little bit of feral. And on the palate, I tend to get maybe sometimes even cured meats. So it has a savory component as
Love
well.
it. Do we want to do some chocolate?
I think so. And you know what? I actually want to show you this because I didn't start this at the beginning, but I at least want to show you like the molds I use and stuff.
Oh, cool.
So these are called polycarbonated mold. They're hard plastic. You can hear that? Really hard plastic. So I didn't show you this, but I should have shown you at the beginning. But these are the molds that I use when I customize my chocolates. Hard plastic is the best to use, especially for chocolate molding. We have to polish them by hand with a little cotton pad. So if you think it's a lot of tedious work, but that's how you get those beautiful results where they look beautiful and shiny. And so like when I pull this chocolate out, as you can see, that's chocolate, just the shell itself before I fill them. So as you can see, this is what it looks like. These aren't painted, but usually I paint the insides of them and I kind of create like the yellow or like the Mexican chocolate. I do a lot of airbrushing, a lot of spraying. So that's, I just really want to show you this, guys. So that way you can kind of see what I do and how it's all crafted and everything as well too. So now we're doing the rosemary, which is one of our favorite. It's one of our signature chocolates. It's this little green one, as you can see. One of our favorites. We keep this one year round. It's beautiful. I infuse in dark chocolate. It's just, you get that beautiful earthiness, almost kind of a little bit of piney from the rosemary. And I think it just kind of complements that dark chocolate. Very kind of fresh. If you ever like crush rosemary between your fingers, you kind of get those oils and you smell it. This is kind of the same as well. So, you know, taste the wine, how we did before. And then put that in your mouth.
We have to ask a question. What made you think of rosemary and chocolate? Because we're just saying, like, we never have thought, I mean, obviously you're a chef, that's your thing to mix flavors, but that's a really unique idea to be mixing an herb with chocolate, and that I never would have dreamed of.
You know, for me, as a chef, I just love playing with a lot of different flavors, different herbs. And one day it just happened that I was using rosemary and I wanted to see what it was going to do with the dark chocolate and how it just changed everything for me and how it complemented the dark chocolate and how it was just like, oh my God, it was mind blowing. It was just not just that one dimensional, but it was just like this revolving thing that I was just sitting there and tasting it. And I couldn't believe how amazing it was together.
Yeah, because we love rosemary, love the smell of it, the taste of it, you know. But again, it's like a savory thing where you put it into an entree, a bread, but never a dessert. It's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I mean, rosemary like with chicken or you know, if you're cooking a roast beef or something, you always put rosemary, a sprig of rosemary in there. And maybe that's where I got the idea. It's just the smelling of it. It's very festive. And so this is like one of our signatures. And, you know, when I did Holiday Wars on the Food Network, I actually incorporated the rosemary in our chocolate for the show. And I kind of how I won too, because it was just so, it was the last episode. And I was like, I'm going to call this Rosemary Christmas Bonbon. And I think it just kind of blew their mind. And yeah, I mean, it was just so amazing. And, you know, a lot of people, when they taste it, they're just like, oh my God, rosemary and dark chocolate, it works. And,
Incredible.
and
With
as you
Syrah,
can-
it works too.
Yeah.
exactly. But as you can see, the inside, like my philosophy is having a really thin chocolate shell and a lot. That's my style. I've seen a lot of chocolate where it's really thick and heavy on the outside with a little bit of filling. That's not me. I feel like you don't get a lot of flavor. You get a more chocolate, then finally get the filling. Whereas these, you're going to taste more filling than a lot of the chocolate shell on the outside.
I love that. I mean, you get to embrace your creativity with the chocolates. And then of course our winemakers, same thing. The creativity, it's your own little spin on it. And this truly is like, these are like the best pairings ever. I'm totally impressed. Totally impressed.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to mention was that one thing when I do pairings, and we got to taste these chocolates with the Syrah a few days ago too, before the Zoom. So I always think of where things grow together. So when I think of the Rhone, you know, there's a lot of influence from Provence. So in arid southern France, so the lavender chocolate, the rosemary chocolate, those types of things tend to pair very well together because they do grow together. A little bit like Italian wines go really well with pizza. I kind of think of that, it's very similar in that way.
Which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Do we have a second chocolate with this one?
Yes, we're actually going to do our lavender caramel. So this is, as you can see, and as you can see, like all my chocolates, I airbrush them, trying to mimic like those flavors. So like the last one you saw, like the rosemary, where it was green. Here we have the purple, a little bit of pink on there. Again, I like to cut it in half.
Is it caramel or not?
Yeah. Which shape is it? The rounder one or the square one?
Round.
It's round, as you can see.
In your box, hopefully you got one of these.
Purple.
Little cheat sheet in your box.
No, I didn't.
No?
No, we did not get one of those.
Oh, darn it.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Ken.
Sorry,
Didn't get chocolates?
I didn't get the.
You didn't get the notes?
No, no. Which one is it? Could you show it again?
It's the purple one.
We don't have a purple one.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's round and more pinkish purple.
If there's not pink, it should be purple. As you can see the purple on there.
It is outstanding.
This is amazing. You taste the lavender and then the caramel.
Oh my gosh.
Is it not like a dark bottom? Is it like this?
Can we get more of it?
Yeah, we're not big lavender people, but that's good.
Excellent. Wow.
I don't know which one it is.
Caramel is
Okay.
leaking out.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
That's great.
Chocolate itself is amazing.
Mm.
Oh my gosh.
You guys have any questions as we're going here?
Oh. Not a question, but Martin, I like your wine. It's wonderful. It's got a great body to it. And it's
Thank you.
incredible how it changes flavors with these chocolates in a very subtle way. Really enjoyed it.
Martin,
Yeah,
sorry.
I do.
I'm sorry, John.
No, go ahead.
John, were you done?
You-
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but Martin, tell us a little bit about the label and that frog that's sitting on the label.
Absolutely. So basically where we're located in Duncan Springs Road, it used to be a former or an old resort for people in the Bay Area because we have a lot of natural springs. And one of the springs is located actually on our property, and we don't know how old it is, but in a canyon, if you go it's about a 20-minute hike, there's a natural spring that has carbonated water, and someone put in a frog, like a bronze frog statue, and the spring comes out of its mouth. So we wanted to just honor that, speak a little bit to the property, and we do have a lot of frogs. I have a few frogs that live in the cellar that look just like that. So we do try to preserve the land. It's pretty wild to get up there. If you guys can ever come visit us, you feel like you're definitely socially distancing every day.
That's awesome. Well, it's funny. So Martin, you said earlier you talked about the bacon fat, and I was like, I was trying to get it, and I was like, well, maybe. And then when I had the chocolate, and then I had the wine, I was like, boom, it's right there. It was like salted, yummy, caramelized bacon. I'm like, oh wow.
Exactly.
Now, and again, 100 cases of this. So tell us more about, like, you know, working in small batches like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we make everything in really small batches. So if you broke everything down, we make probably at most 50 cases at a time. So we ferment in small tanks, about at most 1 ton per tank, pretty much. And actually this year, the 2020 vintage, because we had a little bit of shatter and the berries didn't set very well, we only have about 30 gallons of the Syrah, which will yield probably about 12 to 14 cases. So it's very limited production, and it varies very year to year. But yeah, no, it's really fun because you do really get to learn the terroir. I like to do what I like to call fillet the vineyard. So because we work in such small batches, and we've gotten to know the vineyard so well, I keep every picking bin separately. I choose which bins go into which fermenters. So a lot of times, even from one block, which can be 1 acre, I can have 5 different fermentations, and those can taste completely differently. And it depends. Usually at pressing time, I'll taste through everything and determine, okay, am I going to blend this whole block? I'm going to keep a few sections separate. So it's really a fascinating property to work with. And it makes it incredibly fun as a winemaker because I have a lot of blending tools when it comes to bottling and blending.
So this particular wine, is it one vineyard, or is it several different vineyards?
So it's all from, so the Syrah is always from our estate. We do have one main Syrah block, and that's about 0.8 acres. And then we have a little bit more on another block, but it's really, it's all vineyard, all from our property.
I love it. You guys have any additional questions? We have bonus chocolates.
You must have a question for Terry.
Well, like I said, we do have bonus chocolates.
We do.
Which I'm excited about. So this is a lovely display. Thank you. Thank you, Chef Buttercup.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, so we want to throw 2 bonus chocolates in there for you. And we have, as you can see, we have our Earl Grey and dark chocolate, and then we also have our cinnamon caramel.
That looks good.
And we want you guys to try this with either your Chardonnay or your Syrah. And this is just kind of a fun, kind of a different experience, just to kind of like see what you get. Like, so maybe try the cinnamon caramel with the Syrah, and then maybe try the cinnamon caramel with the Chardonnay. Sometimes in Chardonnay, you can kind of get a little bit of that butterscotch, maybe a little bit of toffee in there as well. So maybe give it a try. And, you know, for me, it's about just creating new experiences, new combinations, and this is what it's all about. And this is why I want to give you guys is to play around with these last 2 chocolates. You know, just try it. Maybe you get something out of it, different notes, different characteristics from the wine, maybe from the chocolates, maybe different flavor profiles.
Yeah, I thought the cinnamon caramel goes really well with the Syrah as well. So I tried that last night, and that was my 3rd favorite.
3rd favorite.
With the Syrah.
Yeah.
I thought the Earl Grey would be great with like a Cabernet.
Yeah, you know, sometimes with Earl Grey, just because it's like black tea, like it's a little more heavier. I think, you know, it'd probably taste better with a Cabernet. But for me, I really just kind of want to taste it and see, because I actually tasted it with your wine, but it was, I think, a little slightly warmer than I want it to be. So it seems it worked. Maybe the temperature was a little off for me, but like right now it's a lot cooler, so it's going to taste a little bit different as well.
Absolutely.
I did put in the chat, and I apologize for not doing it sooner, that little cheat sheet for the chocolates. So it's in the chat if you want to download it so that you can kind of reference. And I apologize, I didn't do that sooner. I thought y'all had this. So if you want to grab it, you can grab it off the chat.
I apologize if it's not in there too. Sorry. Thanks. I just tried it with the Syrah with the Mexican. I saved a little piece of it because Syrah for us is like, you know, peppercorns and things like that. But whew, it's really peppery that way. A nice bite.
So for our guests, what are you guys experiencing? What's been your kind of your favorite and your kind of like, woo, your wow moment? I know you had a wow moment. I did.
Yeah.
It was the rosemary for me, and sorry, I have to. It was the rosemary and the Syrah was just insane.
Every time I walk by a rosemary plant, I just grab a hand. I just run my hand over it and walk away, smelling it because it just sticks with you.
I wish we had those in New Jersey.
What's that?
The rosemary, the first one we had, that was the very first we tried with the Syrah.
With the Syrah.
Yes. Yeah, I saw an expression in my wife's eyes that I haven't seen in 35 years.
I hope that's a good thing.
Where'd she go?
She couldn't take anymore. She had another meeting. Yeah, she had another meeting.
I can't wait to put the rosemary chocolate on my roasted potatoes now.
Ooh, yum.
Awesome. Do you guys have any other questions for our esteemed guests?
I have one. Martin, your name is Topel. Where's that from? What's the background of that?
Yeah, so Topel, so the winery was started by Mark and Donna Topel. They bought the property in the 80s. The vineyard was planted in the late 80s. So pretty much all the vines on our property are about 30 years old. And yeah, it's a family name.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Eric, I figured, you know, that's pretty obvious. So.
Yeah.
Do you have a Gallegos hat on?
I do.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so what is Gallegos? What does that mean? Does that have a meaning?
I'm not sure what the mean. I gotta Google it real quick, but I know I know it comes from the Galicia region of Spain. Of course, our family I'm a third generation from Mexico here in California, but somewhere down the line, obviously when the Spaniards conquered North America and Mexico, that's where it comes from. And every time I do go like to wine events, and everyone's always like, "Hey, have you been to Spain or the Galicia region of Spain?" That's where the name's from.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I've never been. We do have a friend that that lives there. Her husband is a professional basketball player from St. Mary's here in Moraga in the Bay Area, and he plays there. So we've always wanted to visit, but hopefully one day we will. But that's, I think, the origin of the last name. I'm not sure what it means. So I'm gonna have to Google that and get back.
I think it's a nickname for the people from the area.
I think so. Yeah, that's what I've heard before as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Gallegos. Yep.
Make great wines in that region as well.
Really? Yeah.
Galicia. Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't going to get out of it. It was just in your blood, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah. I might have skipped a few generations, but it came back to us, I guess.
All good. All good.
Awesome. Do you guys, anybody else have any further questions? Our winemakers and Robert, do you guys have some final thoughts? And I know that Laura and Terry have something that they want to talk to you guys about. But you guys, final thoughts?
Well, one quick question. So this goes to both Eric and Martin. So obviously we tasted two specific wines tonight, Eric, the Chardonnay, Martin, the Syrah. Do you have a signature wine for your vineyard, or is this it, or actually are there others? I guess what are you best known for? What type of wine?
Eric, I'll let you go first.
Okay, cool. So to answer your question, they're all the best wines that we make.
Okay, stop
Right.
it.
What else? I mean, the other
I would
Gallegos.
say, as far as our whites, we do have a Sauvignon Blanc that we produce. We have a blush wine, a rosé that we produce, and then the Chardonnay, kind of on that, blush and white wines. And I would say out of our white wines, our Chardonnay is definitely a fan favorite. Just kind of going back to the comments earlier about the style of Chardonnay that we produce. It's not your typical over buttery, over oaky Chardonnay. It's kind of something for everyone. It's not, geared to a certain Chardonnay drinker. And then on our red side, we produce a Cabernet, a red blend, Merlot, and a Pinot. And I would say out of those, the Pinot Noir is definitely our fan favorite and our best seller. Our Pinot is coming off a vineyard out in Santa Lucia Highlands in Monterey. And again, just, very, very cool region, perfect for Pinot Noir, and a lot of great, not just us, but a lot of great wineries produce some exceptional Pinot from that area. So I would say, to be honest, I would say, is our best seller.
And Eric, the story behind the Pinot with your roommate and with your friend from college is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So we have a single vineyard, and again, all our wines are single vineyard wines. So and then we want to keep that consistency with our sourcing. But the vineyard is owned by my old college roommate and his family, the Buchanugan Vineyard, and they own about their whole property is about 10,000 acres. He's a 5th generation cattle farmer in Monterey, so their property runs from the 101 side, like Salinas Valley, all the way to Carmel Valley on the west side, and then a few different vineyards. They have one on the Salinas Valley side. It's about 200 acres on Santa Lucia Highlands, which is where the Pinot comes from. And again, it's a cooler, rocky soils, very cool. I mean, that place stays fogged in every day, every summer, till noon. They get some heavy winds coming in the evenings. It really kind of cools down the temperature and really lets the Pinot have the concentration that those Pinots are known for in that region. But yeah, it's cool. It's a project that we have been going. Him and I, we pretty much talk every day. He's one of my best friends. It's a cool project that we have with him, and we do crush it in Napa. So every harvest, whoever misbehaved that year has to go get the fruit all the way in Monterey, which is usually me.
In the middle of the night.
Yeah. So they harvest at night, obviously, and they start about 10 p.m. It's done by 2 a.m. And usually I go and stay the night at his house, and then haul the fruit back to Napa, and it's made here. But yeah, I would say definitely an expression of the region, and kudos to Garrett and with my support to farm it and make the wine. That's one of the vineyards that the wine kind of makes itself. And again, to answer your question, that's probably one of our best sellers. And Laura has access to it as well. So if you guys are interested in trying that one out, Laura has that, and you guys can get it from her.
Eric, I'm sorry, which one was that? There was a little glitch when you said which one it was.
Oh, the Pinot. Yeah.
Okay, thank
I
you.
was answering Kim's question on, the Pinot.
Pinot's
Awesome.
gorgeous. And in fact, today, Venice Galoni just released an article about how fabulous Santa Lucia Highlands wines are, particularly for the 2018.
Yeah, so our 18, if you're into scores, scored 95 points from Wine Enthusiasts. So,
Wow.
So we can get that for you.
Maybe a Robert Parker like 89, but still a nice score.
Right. And so Martin, your turn to answer the same question.
Absolutely. So yeah, we make a lot of, well, not a lot of different wines, but we do. So I'll start with the lighter. So we make a rosé of Pinot Noir. So we do harvest Pinot Noir specifically to make rosé. So that's usually the first wine that comes in the cellar out of the Russian River. We make it in a Provençal style, so very fresh, lean, completely dry. So you're gonna get a lot of kind of bright fruit aromatics, a little bit of florals, but it's just gonna be a zinger, kind of very fresh in your palate. So that was a fan favorite. I started making it this past 2019, and that sold out by June. So unfortunately, I can't share any right now, but the 2020, I doubled the production. So hopefully Laura and Terry will have some in the spring. I also make a Sonoma County Chardonnay. So a little bit like Eric, I don't use too much oak. It depends, you know, we make small batches. So my 2019 is about 25% new oak because I have 4 barrels. One of them being, but very much in kind of similar style, very, you know, I'm looking for acidity, kind of brightness, a little bit of minerality. I age it in barrel for about 11 months. I usually bottle it right before harvest. And then we go into the reds. So we do make a Pinot Noir, same vineyard as the Rosé, but I usually come back about 2 weeks later because, you know, I wait for a little bit higher sugars, a little bit more flavor development, and that's the Slusser vineyard. So I do like to work with heritage vineyards. The Slussers have owned that vineyard since the 1840s, and, you know, they've had all kinds of crops, but since I think the 50s, it's been grapes. So it's great to work with that family, making some really high quality fruit. It's a single clone, so it's 115. Very aromatic. It tends to be a little bit leaner than some, you know, other California Pinot Noirs, and that was by choice. So that's why I chose the 115 clone. And then we go back to our estate. So we have a red blend from our estate. We do have our estate Cabernet and our estate Syrah. So those, we have 3 wines coming out of our estate. The majority actually being the Cabernet and the red blend.
Nice. I have one last question for both of you, and then I want Laura and Terry to talk with you guys. What is your total case production for each one of your wines or wineries?
Not it.
So it's a hard question because when you think about winemaking, it's really, and especially at our size, it's farming. It's all about farming. So it depends on the vintage. This 2020 was a very light vintage for us. So our Pinot Noir is about, I wanted to increase my program, but there was a frost in the spring. So yields were about 50% down from last year. On our estate, this year was about, depending on the block, but about 20 to 50% down. But to answer your question, anywhere total probably from 500 to 800 cases, depending on the vintage.
Yeah.
Most of that being the Cabernet from our estate. And then after that, the Pinot and the Chard. But everything in general, like the Syrah, I think on average about 50 cases.
That's barely enough to supply me for the year.
Right.
Come on.
Exactly.
And to put that into perspective, you know, if you visit the Napa Valley, you drive up Valley, you see some very large major wineries that are producing anywhere from minimum of 10,000, but up to 100,000 cases. And as we said earlier, all of our vintners, Eric and Martin included, are more on the artistic side and are producing, you know, in the hundreds, not the thousands of cases.
That's what makes them so amazing. So yeah, thank you. So Eric, what's your range?
Yeah, so we got, our range. So yeah, to Terry's point, I think in order to be Wildcrafted, it does have to be very small batches, and you have more control of the process and try to capture the wine and bottle it when you think it's perfect. And our wine company, it's also very small. It's anywhere from, depending on the year, 1,000 to 500, 1,000 to 1,500 cases a year. It was pretty funny. Our first ever wine was our 2011 Pinot Noir, and it was only about 60 cases, our very first wine. And me and my dad are sitting there looking at each other. He's like, well, you know, if we can't sell it, we'll just have to drink it all ourselves.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the focus early on, and I come from a big family, and there's someone's birthday or an anniversary that you get invited to a barbecue, and you always bring, back in the day it was a 6-pack of beer. Now we're getting a little fancy and we have wine now, but that was kind of the idea of starting the wine company. Also was for family, for our friends mostly, and then as we started growing our brand with the help of Larry and Terry and Laura, trying to fill orders, having a small wine club, really called to increase production year to year. So I think for now we're at a comfortable spot, but yeah, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 cases in a year.
Perfect. Okay, one last question for Buttercup. How many chocolates do you make in a year?
She wants them all.
I want to eat them all. Yeah.
Not enough.
Okay, maybe how many different types of chocolates do you make, and then how many do you make? Like all of them.
We're really small production for sure. It's me, my wife, mostly me doing the chocolate itself. I would say we do anywhere from 13 to 15 different flavors. And, that can be a lot, right? Because, I still have my full-time job and then I have to go do chocolates afterwards, right? But I love this. It's my passion. But, we do, it really depends. Like I try not to make too much because we're so small that it's more an artisan perspective instead of commercial like chocolates. So yeah, we keep it more on the smaller scale when I do production. But we do anywhere from 13 to 15 different flavors, and sometimes they're always changing. Like during summertime, we're doing like strawberries and cream, just because like we think about rosé. Like me specifically, I think about like rosé, and like I know that's going to pair really well with the strawberries and cream. So I always try to have strawberries and cream at that time. And then I kind of like switch it over. Citrus is coming in, so I'm doing like orange and honey. And just because we try to use a lot of local ingredients, a lot of local purveyors that are, that have like honey or maybe some citrus. So I try to always incorporate their product into my chocolates. But yeah, we're more on the smaller scale. And I would say I probably, if I had to really push it, I probably could do maybe like 1,500 chocolates in a day. But that's, yeah.
Wow.
I've done it before, but it's pretty much like all day in the kitchen. It's pretty long hours, but I can do it. But I try not to. Not right now, but yeah, we try to at least keep 1,500, and then we'll probably scale back just for the holidays. We'll probably have like 12 flavors because that will keep me busy for the holidays for sure. And especially within Sonoma County, we do free deliveries, and so that's kind of what we want to start, especially with this whole COVID happening and stuff. It was kind of like our way of showing ourselves, and we're willing to go out there and do this in Sonoma County, and it seems to be working. We've started back, I would say, what would you want? My wife's right here, so I'm looking over here. So if you see me looking, I'm talking to her a little bit, but I would say probably like Easter. I was like, why don't we just offer free delivery in Sonoma County and see what happens? And sure enough, we were busy. Like I was making chocolates almost like every day. Like, and I didn't even think about a day off. It was just like, I'm going to do it, see what happens. So yeah, I'm already looking to work pretty much all of December to fill our orders. And, it's all about fun and get to share my passion with our customers.
Nice. Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, so I'm all ready. Can't wait for the next one. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do it again. Seriously,
Yeah,
tell all your friends. So Laura and Terry, I'm gonna let you guys kind of finish us out. Go right ahead.
So thank you again. We appreciate your support. As you know, or maybe you don't, we're an online wine shop, online retailer, as well as a wine club. And you should have had a little sheet in your package, maybe, maybe not. We pride ourselves on the wine club because it's wines that you can't find in your grocery store. Again, they're not distributed widely. We're very, very proud of these wines. But also we're a retailer. We're here to answer any question. We prefer the personal touch. Pick up the phone, call us. Don't hesitate to do that. We're here for you to answer any question. And we hope that you've enjoyed the evening, and perhaps we could do it again.
Absolutely. So go ahead, Terry.
No, I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us. We really appreciated it. This was a bit of a celebration for us with the changing of the name of our company. We've had one name in our family that we've been using for almost 20 some years for a variety of reasons, and changing this to Wildcrafted Wines was a big thing for us. But anyway, I have a lot of friends and we have old customers on the line, and just wanted to thank all of you for joining us. It's much appreciated on our end to have all of you join us. And you know, if you want to do this again, let us know. If you want to do it with your own friends and do something like this, we're here, we can do it. And
if you're coming to Napa Valley, let us know.
Yeah.
So Terry and Laura, thank you so much. I've tried.
Robbie, you're the best.
I tried it with my friends and it was wonderful. So I'm looking out and trying to see if we can do it again. So thank you.
I hope so. I mean, this was amazing. I want to thank you guys all for joining us. And obviously, this is something special. What Laura and Terry have is something very, very special. Supporting the small, you know, these small winemakers that are just so amazing and all sustainable. And of course, you know, Robert, local here, local guy, so amazing. Love supporting you as well. So, you know, if you guys want to join one of the wine clubs for Wildcrafted Wines, I highly encourage that. The holidays are coming. Y'all need gifts, okay? Y'all need gifts. So, and you're going to be like, you know, even if you can't show up for Christmas or whatever Christmas party, you get that wine going and you're going to impress people with these wines. So I highly recommend, you know, jumping on with Laura and Terry. Terry, give a call, get on the email or whatever, and order some wines for sure.
And social media, we're on Facebook and Instagram, Wildcrafted Wines. Pretty easy.
And our website, wildcraftedwines.com.
Yes.
Every wine that we have, including Eric and Martin's, but also other vintners,
and
we're all there. We're all there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, this was great, and I would love to do this again. So Terry,
Thank you.
please let us know when you set up the next one.
Again, thank you.
All right.
Awesome. Cheers, everybody.
Before we go, we got to do a cheers, and I'm going to take a photo. I got to take a photo. Hold on.
Please send it back to us.
I got to take
Lynn's not in the photo.
Okay. There we go. Okay, put up your
Well, here's
glass.
my wife. She's
There you
here.
go.
Wait.
Let's do it. Where's the wine? Get the wine.
Where's one?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Look at the other one.
Okay.
Don't go
We're
yet.
gonna make you famous.
I like your glass, Martin.
Janet, thanks for
Sorry, my
joining.
glass. My empty glass.
Awesome.
Comes up with a good color in the shot.
All right.
So thank you guys again. That's it.
Yeah.
Unless you want to hang out and chit chat a little bit. I don't know if anybody has to go anywhere. I'm sure everybody has to has things to go and family. and
Dinner.
stuff.
Everybody's probably
Dinner.
starving.
Yeah.
We just had dessert.
Maybe chocolate. Yeah, dessert for sure.
We gotta put our kids to bed.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
Everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.